And welcome to the Living Large Theater with Gary Rodriguez and Billy Santiago.
Step inside the Living Large Theater. Admission's free, but you must bring your sense of humor and thirst for knowledge. This is where we talk about current events, lifestyles. We go into the room of cooking, sports, travel, music, etc. We talk a little bit about politics, and we always say WTF. That is the Living Large Theater with Gary Rodriguez and Billy Santiago. Now remember, we talk, but you are the most important person.
And welcome to another edition of the Living Large Theater podcast. How are you? I'm Billy Santiago, along with my good friend of 35 years, Gary Rodriguez.
Billy, the professional extraordinaire in radio. Man, we had so many good times together. Remember, this is the Living Large Theater podcast. Admission is always free, but you must bring your sense of humor and a hunger for knowledge. We have an in-studio guest today. It is City of Pharr Police Chief and City Manager Andrew Harvey. Chief, City Manager, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. But who did I give my $5 to?
Had to be Noe. Hey, listen, this is the Living Large Theater podcast, and some of the things that I want to make sure we all understand is that happiness is a choice, and I believe that God wants us to be happy. You know, life is a constant challenge in and of itself. A lot of the choices we make along the way add to that already naturally challenging state of being. Gas prices seem to break new barriers every day. My kids are all grown, yet I find myself anxious for others about this crazy baby formula shortage. The absolute faith that I grew up with in many of our government institutions just isn't the same anymore. Social justice warriors appear to be winning the battle to diminish American values and traditions, and to me, that's worrisome. But at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, and throughout the day, I'm just amazed at the blessing God grants us with to find reasons to be happy. Life is good. Life is real good. The days this time of the year are hot, very hot, but the evenings are magical, with their breezes fluttering through the branches of mesquite trees as they cool down the earth around here, and the cooling temperatures coax us outside to stroll the neighborhood, greet our neighbors, and realize this part of the world is a very nice part of the world. Family is another reason for happiness. Yes, there may be some disagreements with each other, but just to still have each other provides a high degree of happiness. You know, at this stage of my life, I'm not as trim as I used to be, and I do have some issues from an injury I had in the Army back in 1981. But all in all, God's kept me in pretty good shape, and I'm happy about that. Hopefully you are too. And friends, I mean, good friends are always a source of happiness. You know, I've known Billy Santiago since 1987. I was his best man. We've been through a lot together, and we're still good friends. And other friends along the way, they're just as important. Ramiro Gomez from the Moondogs, AC Cruz from B104, Joe Garcia from Joe's Master Service, Roman and George Garza from Las Palmas Downs, and Dr. Rick Gonzalez, the eye guy from Ed Couch Elsa. These are just a few of the many good friends that always bring a sense of happiness to me, and I know you have yours. Nothing is perfect, and to expect everything to be perfect just opens the door to major letdowns. Stress and its evil cousins, depression and mental confusion, are always just around the corner. But I believe faith in God and the fight within each of us can help us meet that challenge and even someday overcome it. I remember one of my radio general managers, Jeff Hedgeman, had a big framed poster hanging on the wall behind his desk, and it said, "Pay bills with a smile." I never understood what that meant because I certainly didn't smile while I was paying bills. If anything, I was cussing and throwing a tantrum. But years later, a light bulb went off in my head, and I figured it out. If you're able to pay your bills, that means you're still alive, you still have a job, and you're still making the purchases you need to keep you and your family safe, comfortable, and happy. Not only is happiness a choice, but I truly believe God wants us to be happy. We owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to God to be happy. Look around you right now, and you will find plenty of reasons to be happy. Hey, I picked up playing guitar. Life is good. Life is real good. And that's living large. Billy.
I didn't know you picked up guitar.
I picked up guitar. I never even played in band. And So I picked up a guitar. Ramiro Gomez of the Moondogs has been teaching me, and I've done a little self-teaching as well with this book called the Hal Leonard Book of Guitar. It teaches you everything.
Are you still real basic? You're not rolling out any Hendrix or anything, are
I'm
you?
less than basic, man.
Okay.
But it's weird that, at my age, I learned how to read music, and I'm just amazed, and it tells me that we can pretty much do anything we want to do. Chief Harvey, you play music, you drum, right?
I do. I'm the guy who hangs out with the musicians. I'm the drummer.
Really?
Yeah, I'm the drummer. That's the guy who hangs out with the real musicians.
Wow.
Now, do you have a set of drums at home?
Yeah, you know what? I gave them up because as I was getting a little older, these young cats, man, they're freaking good. So you know what? I gave it up and bought congas and timbales and all that. So now I do a lot of just a Latin percussion.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
So that's more my style anyway.
And that's like a sense of therapy for you,
it
right?
is.
After a long day on the job, man, you go home
just
and
chill. It's just me. It's just grooving to whatever I want to do, and so it's really cool for me. It really is.
That's amazing. But that you said that, Bill, because as bad as I am on guitar, I find it cathartic. I find it like very relaxing and. And even, right now I'm trying to learn Happy Birthday. My youngest son turns 24 pretty soon. And I've told him I'm going to learn Happy Birthday. Now you think Happy Birthday to you, it would be easy. And it is kind of easy, but at the same time, you have to learn it and memorize it. And I don't know how true this is, Andy, but I've heard that Willie Nelson knows, I'm not saying he knows 20,000 songs.
I just want to know how old that guitar he's got.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's got to be the same guitar when he's first started.
Yeah, it is. As a matter of fact, when the IRS went to his house to start collecting stuff, because when he was in a back tax situation, he called his daughter and says, I think he calls that guitar Maybelline or something. Get Maybelline out of the house. And nothing else. No boots, no pants, just that
Maybelline couldn't go, huh?
I don't see how people do that, right? Because especially lyrics. I'm not a lyric person. So I always get the lyrics wrong, right? And my wife is always one, like, she knows every word to every song, it seems like. And I'm like, how in the world do you know every song? I don't even listen to the words. For me, it's all about the music. It's the feel of it. That's what I love about it. And sometimes I'll be like, hey, this is a great song. She's like, do you know what it's about? Like something bad, right? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I said, I just like the way it sounds. It sounds awesome. She goes, what's about this and this and this? And like, oh, well, I still like it because it's really cool. It's a good jam, right? But that's me, right? I couldn't imagine 20,000 songs. Man.
Yeah, that he knows. And, he's been around a long time. And there was a time when Ray Price and Farron Young in Nashville, they didn't want him to succeed as a performer. They wanted him to keep writing songs. He's written so many songs for that other people sing. And you're what? Willie wrote that?
Wow.
Yeah, very, very talented man. And I know he's up there, but hopefully he sticks around for a few more years.
Hey, Chief, you're talking about playing drums, the congos and stuff. And, you come home from a long day at the office. How do you decompress besides not having the drums, not the congos, but when you come home, how do you deal? Because man, you're in a high stressful job, man.
I'll be honest, I don't always decompress. I mean, my days go by like nothing. By the time I get home, I am mentally and emotionally exhausted a lot of the days. And so I just keep that up until I need to do some things. So I'm not very good at it. I'll be honest with you, because I'm going, and sometimes I don't even have or take the time to decompress. I should, but I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And but it catches up to me because I know, right? I can feel myself. Okay, it's I'm not right. I'm short fused or whatever that is, and so I know I have to fix myself. Good thing, along the way I've learned a lot about myself, so I know when I need to either stop or slow down or do something different or pivot.
Yeah.
But so that's a good thing for me, right? But it took me a long time to learn that. And so I know when I get like that, in a certain way, I need to do one of those things, slow down or pivot, right? Or do something else. But it's something
sort of a distraction,
something that I deal with, man, really.
Well, I've known you a couple of years, Chief, and you're always, to me, and it kind of goes in line with what you just said, to me, you're always on an even keel. You're not too far this way, too far that way, too far up, too far down. I mean, how do you do that?
Well, it's been a process, and it's been a process for many, many, many years. I got to a point, and maybe on another show we can talk about something I went through. But what I noticed was I always thought, see, I was that guy that always thought everything was cool, man. Everything's no problem. I didn't have stress and all that. Well, I was lying to myself, right? That's not true. We all go through stress, and we all go through the same thing, especially when you're in a fast paced, high pressure job, right?
Or
And
two.
or two, right? And I was lying to myself, and it broke me. I'll be honest with you, it broke me. And there were times where I would respond in a way that wasn't cool, man. It wasn't good for me, and it wasn't good for
Yeah, I've
the
had those
people.
times too.
No, and I regret it. I look back and
Mhm.
said, "Damn,
But
man."
you learn from it.
Right.
I learned from it. I learned from it, and I don't want to do that anymore, man.
Yeah.
So I have had to be very intentional about how I respond and how I, again, right, knowing myself first, so that I can know, okay, I'm not going to respond well if I do it right now. So I know, to either slow down or back up, wait, whatever that is, and
Right.
then respond. Now, that's just not to say that I won't still,
Yeah.
but I've gotten a lot better at it. But
So-
it's an ongoing thing, man.
How would you counsel somebody to do what you do, to stay in control of their emotions, or at least not allow their emotions to create an outburst?
Yeah, well, first you have to acknowledge that you're human and that you have emotions, and you're going to have bad days, and you're going to have stress and all those things that life hit, it hits all of us. So acknowledge that 1st,
Mhm.
and now acknowledge that you are human. I think that's a big one, right? Because we
Big
think
time.
we're good, right? We think no problem. I'm a man, and I'm tough and all that. Well, not really. So acknowledge that we have our weaknesses, and just being human, right? And then after that, you start working little by little, but you start working on your self-awareness. You have to know yourself. And it takes a lot, but
Yeah.
most people don't know themselves yet.
Right.
And so when you have that high level of self-awareness, you can manage that better, but it's a constant. It's a constant because you never quite get there.
Yeah. My dad used to tell my brother and I, you never see yourself as other people see you. Growing up, I didn't know what he was talking about. But as I grew up, I started realizing we have this image of ourselves. We're either great, perfect, successful, but that's not always
usually
how,
wrong.
yeah, it's not always how other people see us.
And Chief, you talk about how being self-aware. When I first got into upper management and I got married, and my wife heard me have a conversation with an employee on the phone, and after I hung up with him, she said to me, "I could never work for you." I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You- "You're yelling at people," and I didn't realize that at the time. And so I became self-aware of what I was
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
when I was having a conversation with an employee about something. And so I had to learn to scale that back and not be as loud. And Gary and I have known each other for 35 plus years. And we've had to deal with some knuckleheads in our business. And so we've had to learn to kind of scale it back, and not let the emotion of the moment get to you, but just kind of just rationalize it out, come to a decision, then act on it, then move on.
It's funny you say that about your wife telling you that, because I've had that same conversation, and probably most of us have. And because they say, right, what you were talking about, Gary, the way you see yourself is probably not the way most people. But if you want a real deal, evaluation of who you are, ask your wife and ask your kids. They'll tell you. And so that's interesting that you said that about your wife, because it's interesting that we listen. And the fact that you listen is a good thing, because we can listen, hear it all day, but not really take it into account.
Yeah.
So, and I always use my wife as a kind of the average citizen, not in a bad way, but when there's things going on out there, I'll ask my wife, because I want to make sure that I'm looking at things right. And I'll say, okay, look at this news story, for example, and tell me what you think. And she'll tell me yay or nay, or it's good, it's bad. And I'll be like, oh, okay. And that helps me kind of stay grounded, right? Because
Right.
we start seeing the world differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Andy Harvey. I mean,
Okay.
Harvey's obviously not an Hispanic name, but you are Hispanic. But
Yeah, I am. I was thinking about that on the way over there. It's funny you say that. But I always look at myself as Chicano, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of people still have a weird, kind of when you say Chicano, it's like a bad thing or something.
Yeah.
And it's not really a bad thing. It's who we are. It's that people who are of Mexican descent that were born here in the United States.
Yeah.
And so I really kind of identify as that, right? My mother is from Mexico, and she was born in Monterrey, and I have family over there and all that still. My dad was born here, and they married, and here I am, right? So I have that background, but I was born here and raised here.
Yeah.
When I
You're,
went to
you're from Far
I'm from Harlingen. I was
Arlington?
raised in
Okay.
Harlingen. But when we go to Mexico, they don't look at us or me as Mexican. They look at me as American, right? Because
Right.
I wasn't born over there.
Yeah.
So we come over here and say, "Yeah, I'm soy Mexicano." No, not really. They look at you differently. So it's funny, right? So I think we're still kind of trying to figure that out. But yes, to answer your question, I am. I mean, soy Latino. Spanish was my first language, and I'm very, very proud of who I am.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you get to know me for more than 5 minutes, you'll know.
And you carry it well. So you born in the Valley, raised in Harlingen, Harvey, your last name. You head upstate and you become law enforcement, or you were already law
No,
enforcement?
hombre, no. We went to San Antonio. I was newly married as a young man and had a baby, and I knew I needed to do something that I thought would do good for my family, right? And so I saw an ad in the paper, and this is the way it happened. I saw an ad in the paper for Dallas PD, and they were recruiting down in San Antonio and going through the testing process and all that. And literally, I said, you know what? I'm not doing anything this weekend. Let me go check it out and see what it's about. And 4 or 5 months later, I was in Dallas, Texas, my wife and I, never even been there. And I was sitting in a classroom in the police academy in Dallas, Texas. And it
Wow.
was, yeah. So that's the way it happened. It
What a
just,
development.
just happened.
So how many years were you in Dallas, Chief?
22 years.
22.
you-
Started patrol.
I did patrol and think about Dallas, such a huge department. I got to do a lot of different things
Really?
and really neat things that I never got, would imagine I would be able to do patrol and of course some investigations and a lot of community stuff. But I'll tell you the best assignment and the most challenging assignment I had was when I was a spokesperson for the Dallas Police Department.
Oh, I bet.
Man, in Dallas, that was huge, right? Because I learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes and but it's good for me now. That experience alone
Hmm.
here has helped me, right? Because it's important to manage organizational perception. You do that by media and all that kind of stuff, and that really helped me.
Well,
do
look
that.
at Uvalde, the way that they messed that up. And first of all, I'm not a critic of the cops. And if you get information or media starts making up information just to have an agenda or a narrative to try to explain something, it's probably not their fault. They have a job to do. But how would that training from your years in Dallas as a spokesperson have uh, reflected the way you would have responded to that?
Well, again, right? You're talking about Uvalde, and I'll be honest, and it's a tough gig, and everybody who's dealing with this is tough. Okay, but I will tell you, and I have learned, if you don't get in front of things, you're going to get behind the 8 ball quick, and there is no catching up. So you have to be these days ahead of the game, 2, 3 steps at the very beginning, and or else you're going to be hurting.
I'm retired now, and I watch a lot of news on TV. And so when I was watching the days after the Uvalde shootings, there was just you had the DPS saying one thing, you had the city Uvalde the PD saying one thing, and then you had the school district saying another
No,
thing. There were just different stories coming out, and it just I felt bad for the chief of the school police department, because they were saying that he didn't want to cooperate, and
right.
he was willing to cooperate, but he didn't want to say too many things, because there were some things he still he couldn't say because he didn't have anything to go by.
Yep, and that's what happens, right? And so all this misinformation, a lot of frustration, a lot of people, quite frankly, just pissed,
Yeah,
right?
a lot of accusations.
Everything. Yeah,
Unfounded
fair
accusations.
or unfair.
Yeah.
But that's what happens, and it's going to happen anyway. But if you don't have a unified message, and if you don't have a timely message, it's going to get you.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about anywhere in any case.
Sure.
So you got to really understand that.
We're talking with Andy Harvey. He is the City of Pharr police chief and city manager. Mr. Harvey, is policing in Dallas different than policing in Pharr?
The scalability is different, but I'll tell you, people still expect the same things from their police department. They expect to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. That's really the bottom line anywhere you go. And so I've worked in Dallas. I was a chief in East Texas for a while, and then now I'm down here. It's the same thing. And people want the same things from their police department.
They want to be
And
protected.
that's it. They want to be protected and of
And
course
respected.
and respected and
That goes both ways.
and that's right. That's absolutely right. And treated in a fair manner, really. And so so we do the best we can to do that. It's not always a good thing, you know. I write in my book, you know, dealing with human beings is not a perfect science.
Nope.
It's not. It's a tough gig, man.
It really
You
is.
beat me to it. I was going to bring it up. What motivated you to take the time to collect your thoughts, write your thoughts down, and compose an actual book called Excellence in Policing? What triggered that from you?
Well, number one, I love this profession, and I do believe that it's a vital part of our country. Can you imagine without police, in just one day without police, how our lives would you know would change, and so our quality of life. So we're a very important part of this country, and so I love this profession. It's still a noble profession, and we want to you know make it better. And so my little small contribution was this book, and basically talks about what I just you know told you guys about treating people with fairness, dignity, and respect. And when you do that, 9 times out of 10, or
It'll
even
come
more than
back
that,
to you.
it's better. It's good. It's
Mhm.
good for everybody, and people are safer, including police officers, including the people that we interact with. So it's good business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You know, Chief, we're talking about you know, treating people with respect, and I've always said about this. You know, people who get pulled over for a traffic violation or something, if they just show respect to the officer who's pulling you over and just do the things he's asking you to do, everything will be fine. You know, show them your liability insurance, show them
Right.
your driver's license. You know,
Right.
but
Yeah.
some of these people, you know, they're probably bad folks to begin with. Probably got a gun
Oh my
underneath their seat or
goodness.
something, and you know they're afraid they're going to get pulled over or something. I mean, you know, it get taken out of their car and get banged up and all that stuff. But I've always felt, you know, you treat the officer with respect, it'll come back to you. You
Yeah.
know,
You know, but you're absolutely right. And listen, I'm just going to put it like this: that there are just cop haters out there.
yeah,
And it's just very small segment, okay? But they're out there and they're looking for anything just to get in an altercation or something and rile a police officer up and all that. So, so there's that, right? And but you're right. If you treat people with respect, each other,
Yeah.
and it's going to come out much better. The time to argue is not there at a traffic stop about why you were stopped.
Sure.
That's not the place and time, right? That's why we have a system, a process, right, to go to court and talk about what you did and talk to a judge and all that good stuff.
Sure.
So that's not the time. And people want to argue. Well, then the officer finally has enough, and so here we go.
right.
My
and-
first action when I get pulled over is I want to convey to that officer that I'm not a threat, that I'm not a smart aleck, that I'm not challenging, and most of all, every time I've ever been pulled over, I have been speeding or doing that California stop that
Yeah.
is a violation. You're listening to the Living Large podcast. Gary Rodriguez, Billy Santiago, Noe Ayala. Our special in studio guest today is City of Pharr Police Chief and City Manager Andy Harvey. Chief, what roles have mentors played in your life and in your success?
Wow, a huge role. And I talk about that quite a bit, around the people that I now lead. It's important to have mentors in your life, and
Mhm.
not even people that you work with. As a matter of fact, you should have people outside of where you work with, that you look up to and that you listen to, and that will tell you the ugly, brutal truth
They'll
about
tell you things
you.
you're
About
right.
yourself.
That's right, because I can tell you, hey, you're a great person, but if that's not the truth, I'm not helping you.
Yeah.
And so you need people like that around you, and that has helped me immensely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations on your appointment to the city manager position. I mean, that was such.
That's a double hat. I mean,
But that was such an excellent move
Wow.
by the mayor, Dr. Ambrosio Hernandez, and the Pharr City Commission. Did it take you by surprise, or were you?
Well, yeah, no, it did, but here's what I found, and this is going to sound. Please don't, hope you understand my spirit here. Here's what I found in my life and my career: when you add value to people, those
Yes.
opportunities come to you without having to go out there and look for them, right? So you don't have to chase a certain position or money. When you add value to people, that will come as a result.
That is so profound.
And so this is the way I see this, and now it's an opportunity to impact, hopefully, an entire city, right, or organization.
And I
So
think our listener understands that you had this happen to you. You weren't chasing it. You weren't putting a bug in anybody's ear. They came to you. Obviously, they realize the value that you yourself have and the impact that you make, not only in the police department, but in life in general, in Pharr and your surrounding communities.
yeah, and they see my, I'm an ambitious person, right? I want to do good and I want to serve well and all those good things. So hopefully they saw that as well, and that played a factor. But I'm really honored. It's just amazing, and I'm also excited
Hey, Chief,
about
before we
the
let you
future.
go, there's three things we need to get from you. Okay, are
Okay.
you a fisherman?
No,
Do you play golf?
no.
Where are you going with this?
Do you grill?
Grill sometimes.
Okay.
I know. I'm not that guy, man. I'm not the.
Yeah, well,
I'm a
you're not
weird dude.
alone.
Guess
well,
what?
we don't either.
Hey.
I grill though. Okay.
Hey,
Gary grills.
Guess what though? I don't even like guns that much, right? And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just telling you, I'm a police officer.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not a gun guy. I just
That brings up something I was going to ask you earlier. What are your thoughts on that law that the state of Texas passed that anybody can carry a gun now? It's crazy.
You know what? Many police chiefs were against that, and I also think that's not a good thing. Just because you can, or just because you can, doesn't mean you should, right? And so, yeah, Second Amendment and all that. I get that. We all get that. But again, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So walking around downtown with your rifle just because you can
With
doesn't mean
your AR-15. That's
why.
just yeah.
Like okay, yeah, you can, and you're protected, but why? I don't understand why people would want to do that just because they can, right?
That's a good perspective,
Yeah.
man. That is a real good perspective. I'm going to ask you to put on your city manager hat here. How is the cost of fuel affecting municipal operations, not only in Pharr, but around Texas?
It is, and it's hard to budget for, right? Because you don't those prices go up quick and or go down quick, and so we do the best we can as far as being fuel efficient. We, sometimes if it gets too much higher, then we have to put more restrictions in place, right? Take home vehicles and that kind of thing, right? Make sure that we're minimizing that and we're being good stewards, right? So it's something we have to think about and monitor, but it's hard to budget for, right? You just
Really
do the
is.
best you can because that market value goes up and down every day, it seems like. And who knows what will happen? Maybe at some point, I saw another city here going to electric vehicles. I don't think we're there yet, but that's something we have.
You
to
have
start
motorcycles?
Yeah, we have motorcycles.
I'd love that.
And I'll be honest, I'm thinking about even adding more because they're so they're so efficient and they get places.
I could see police departments going with electric vehicles. I mean, that would be a smart move, I think.
Yeah,
They're doing it.
If they can
are.
afford it.
Yeah, they're a little more expensive,
Right.
But so you kind of have to gauge the balance there within gas prices and the cost of an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
Because they cost more.
I saw a
too.
video of a Tesla police car, and the Tesla police car, obviously totally electric, chased down a Mustang GT.
Yeah, no, they have a lot of power now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Elon, if you're listening to Live in Large, let's do something in Pharr. Why don't you bring us a fleet of Teslas and
fleet of prototypes.
Ooh, there you go. There you
Whatever.
go.
A
Yeah,
fleet of prototypes.
We'll evaluate them and all that good stuff for
That
you.
is so
Elon,
cool.
I know you listen to Live in Large, so give me a call.
Excellent. Hey, Chief, it's been an honor to have you here with us. I'm going to allow you to close us out. Tell us what your constituents would like to hear from you as far as keeping them safe and keeping order in your community that they can share with their friends that live in other communities.
Yeah, one thing that I'm really big on and is making sure that we're lifting a city up. And this is what I talk about as a police department. How do we lift the city up, right? How do we do that? And that's we do that because we become relevant in their lives, right? We're not just an afterthought. We are relevant in Pharr, and I hope that people are seeing that. And now I get to go to City Hall and implement that same mindset and culture, hopefully to our directors and to our employees. That listen, we're here to lift up a city. We're here to do a great job, but also be a part of it, but lift it up. And when they see that, man, people respond well to that. So that's what I hopefully I bring to the table.
I'll tell you
So-
what else. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I was just going to ask him as attire when he goes to work now. Do you still wear the police uniform or do you go with coat and tie? Well, how's that
No,
work?
Well, right now I'm wearing the coat and tie, but don't tell anybody. But I think I might do away with the tie. Man.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, there you go. See, Gary?
We'll
See?
After I'm gone,
Gary, you left too early, man.
hey, Chief Harvey, I'm going to tell you something. Ever since I've known you, you've just had this calming effect. And I think it has a lot to do with your confidence, but also the way you treat people. You kind of command that treatment in return to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I do try to do my best to treat people with respect because I want also to be treated with
Exactly.
respect.
That's
right.
my dad told me that a
Yeah.
long time ago. You treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, so they come at me a certain way, and the first question I ask is, have I disrespected you in any way? I want to make sure that because the way you're coming at me makes me think that I did something wrong to you. So let me
Right.
know if that's that, and usually that calms the
That's
temperature.
excellent. And that's how you calm me down as well. Hey, you've been listening to the Living Large Theater podcast. Admission always free, but you must bring your sense of humor and a hunger for knowledge. We can't thank our in-studio guests enough. Police Chief and City Manager of the City of Pharr, Andy Harvey. Chief, thank you for joining us
Oh,
today.
Thanks,
man,
Chief.
it's my
Appreciate you,
pleasure. Nice to meet you, Billy and Noe, and man, let's do it again if that's okay.